Why?
Oh yeah, no, that's just the war campaign assholes. They do that kind of thing.
I said hail the chat. Hail, brethren. I said hail. Hail the chat. All right. Oh, yes. How do you feel, Pat? I'm feeling good, brother.
Had a pretty good weekend. Hope everybody out there had a good one too.
I feel kind of sad. Bad news out there. If you could just sing me that song, man, just to get the day started, kind of remembrance, you know what I mean? A little bit of moment of...
Oh, Matthew Perry. Yeah, I didn't
please.
even know he was a Canadian, actually. I think the song went, I'll be gay for you, be gay for me too. Something like that.
Which one of the women do you think you would be, Penn? I think Rachel, or would you be maybe...
The women?
Yeah.
I don't know. Would I be David Schwimmer? I don't know. Maybe Ross? I don't know. Maybe Joey? Maybe I'm an airhead like Matt LeBlanc? I don't know.
I would be Phoebe.
You'd be Phoebe, the hippie?
The slut. Yeah, that's me.
Smelly cat?
That's right. Hail, brother. Hail the chat. All right. Perfect, man. There's snow outside. You know that? There's literally snow outside.
Wow, you got snow?
Hold on a second. I'm going to show you a picture of me in the snow. But don't get Jordy. Okay? It's really early in the morning. I don't want you to get too...
We have Phoebe in the chat. She says, I'm Phoebe.
Oh.
Hail, Phoebe. Hail the chat.
There you go, man. That's my backyard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool, huh?
Look at that.
And that's my dog, man. He's so cute. Just want to kiss him on the lips. I'm an animal lover. Yeah, I'm an animal lover.
Good dog, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. You shouldn't love him like that, though.
Love him right in the...
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm gonna love him right in the... Man,
Right in the dog hole.
you know what it is, man? There's something about animals, right, that kind of puts you in connection with, you know, the ancient history of man. I saw this movie called Alpha, and it was about the domestication of wolves, and it was so sweet, man. I was thinking, geez, I am a dog boy. Like, not one of those new age dog boys that, you know, I don't want to be walked like a dog. But,
Who domesticated wolves? When did that happen?
10,000 years ago, right, Kat? 10,000 years ago?
What?
Didn't they?
It is a long ass time ago. I don't know if it's 10, but yeah.
Anyways,
Domesticating wolves?
yeah, dogs remind us, you know, that we're just more than just people who hate each other and argue in the streets. And put it this way, right? There's this, well, here's a video. It's called World War Now. That's the account.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, that's actually food for thought. You know, you don't ever find yourself arguing with a dog. This one says...
Maybe Vicky
Black
the dog.
Hebrew... Well, oh, go ahead, Ro.
Maybe Vicky the dog.
Oh, woof. old nemesis of ours. Okay, it says Black Hebrew Israelites fight pro-Palestine protesters in Chicago. Black Hebrews, huh? Damn.
Let's try to understand this. Black Hebrews, right? So there is a movement of black people who are trying to find their history, right? They're trying to find their history. They're looking in every quadrant that they can search for, and some of them have decided that they are actually Hebrews, and that's actually, if you remember, Pastafarians, right? What they get up and they say, "Jamon Zion," right? I mean,
Right?
Yeah.
Jah Rastafari.
That's it, man. Let's take a little bit of this, and please, viewer discretion is advised. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. Don't hurt each other, guys. Don't. You're both so important to society.
These Black Hebrews are going off.
You're both in Chicago, man. Chicago has that. You know that black lady there? The what was her name, man? She looked like she came
Oh,
out of
the
yeah.
former mayor. Yeah, she
Right.
looks like Beetlejuice or something.
That's the
Lori Lightfoot.
yeah,
That's right.
her, man. You're both so important to society. You black Hebrewites, also Hamas lovers. You're both so important. don't fight each other. So I see stuff like this, and I'm just like, guys, none of you are important. Matthew Perry just drowned in 3 inches of his own bathwater. Did you know you can drown in 3 inches of your own bathwater? That's right. You sure can. Right? And there's a lot of theories out there about what happened. And also, weirdly enough, Justin Trudeau has been linked to potentially, possibly, I like to call them sensual relations of some kind. All right, and he
What?
actually, he put out this tweet, and I saw this, and I'm like, I don't actually care about the show Friends. I actually remember growing up watching this, thinking like it would be on when I come home from school. You know what I mean? And my mom didn't have any dinner made for me, right? Because
Someone making hungry
she went to work, and I was sitting there hungry and helpless, like a baby
Oh,
duck.
poor Ro.
Yeah, with my mouth open like this.
The latchkey kid.
I had my mouth open when I came home.
Baby bird.
And I had to eat this Lipton's packet, okay, of fettuccine Alfredo. And I still remember the taste. All he did was add water and microwave it. And that's how I grew up.
I remember those.
You know what I mean? Because my mother was too busy being a modern woman. You know what I mean?
Out there having a life.
Right? She's a modern woman, and I was just starving, eating Lipton's fucking fettuccine. I still remember my grandmother. Right? My grandmother came to visit me, and she's 80 years old. So I make 2 of these packets of Lipton's fettuccine, and I gave myself, 2/3 of it because she's 80 years old. She kept her mouth shut till my mom came home, and she said, "He doesn't feed me." I'm telling you, dude.
So you got like child abuse, making you eat nothing but Lipton's, and then you got elder abuse where you're feeding her only 1/3 of the package.
That's right. Hail
That's
Sheepburger.
wild.
Sheepburger says, "Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate that. That's very kind of you, brother." He goes, "Every time people hail, they SRDs. Hail, brother." That's right, Sheepburger. Long time
True.
supporter, man,
A
yeah.
lot of people, do the hail now online and on YouTube, especially like in the comics arena where we came from, and they basically stole it from us. That's what Sheev is saying. So hail, brother.
Hail, brother, absolutely. And it's not even stealing. Listen, if you want to live by honor, accountability, integrity, and loyalty, you got a good time saying hail the chat because it makes you feel great, right? Then, then that's cool. Do that thing. And this, getting back to my, my recollections of my, I would call it actually starvation.
Child
diet.
abuse.
Starvation diet. I would come home, I would microwave a packet of Lipton's, and I would settle in, and I would watch Ross be the biggest cuck I've ever seen in my life. He was so cuck. And I didn't know the word even, right? I didn't know that I was being abused by watching this cuckery. But but I did know that he was a cuck. Why did you love Rachel so much while she's fucking other dudes? You know what I mean? That really-
Right?
And he'd have this
Total
mopey.
cuck.
He had this mopey face, right? He had this mopey face, right? It was like this. Was like, Rachel.
Right? I never liked the show. I thought, like, as a kid, I thought they were all pussies.
Pussies and cucks. Anyway, but Justin Trudeau apparently he had a looks like a central relationship with Matthew Perry, and well, let's see, let's hear it.
Okay, so Prime Minister, everyone's favorite Justin Trudeau says, Matthew Perry's passing is shocking and saddening. I'll never forget the schoolyard games we used to play. He used to beat my ass at the jungle gym. And I know people around the world are never going to forget the joy he brought them. Thanks for all the laughs, Matthew. You were loved and you will be missed.
You were loved in the butt. When I see these things, and I just keep thinking, right, there's all these kind of theories, conspiracy theories about how all these high-level cucks and soy boys all know each other in the celebrity industry, political celebrity industry, I would like to call it. How is it possible that these dudes went to school together, held hands, and loved each other in the butt? How is that possible? Just to me, you know what I mean, Pat? What are the odds that you went to school with Matthew Perry? What is this? I don't get it. I don't understand.
It's a small world.
Is that what
it's
it
a
is?
small world, I guess. Yeah.
The Canadian news is going wild about it, right? They just, I mean, this article just goes on. Look at this. Is this, you ever feel like you're being distracted and it's just stupidity in the news continuously, and you were better off sort of literally rubbing one out to a woman you love than that?
Good God.
You know, but they're going wild about this because it's the news, right? It's the news. Meanwhile, by the way, just to kind of put this and juxtapose this article, right? There was supposed to be a COVID inquiry, well, an inquiry into the handling, right? Of the
Yeah,
COVID,
for sure, buddy.
whatever you want to call it, reaction. I'm not going to say any other
Yeah,
words.
it
'Cause
is.
Anything I say after that is just going to
He grew up in Ottawa,
spanked by the internet.
right where I'm
but,
living right now.
I think this is the one over here. Okay. So there's a couple here. There's a couple bills that are kind of in the
Yeah,
news
me too,
that
man.
nobody's really seen over here.
Yeah,
And this, by
well,
the
I
way, is
think,
from
yeah, I think he
Black
was. I
Bloc.
think his parents were in
Black Bloc
politics
said
or something,
they
and he lived in
put this
Ottawa.
out. Like I said before, these guys are one of the few Black Blocs report bringing out
Yeah.
new information today. And I like
So
to give
that
them a
tweet
shout
with
out.
Justin Trudeau, they like went to the same
Because
school or something. They went to like Ashbury,
actually
which is like
doing
this,
some
I think, is rich.
All right, so here we go.
private
We got
school
Bill
in Ottawa, I think.
C-293, an act respecting
Could be wrong with the name of the school, but
proposed that Cabinet establish an advisory committee to conduct a 2-year review of pandemic management. So this MP, Davies, sought to amend the bill to permit a full judicial inquiry under the Inquiries Act. So this is not like an inquiry into the Emergency Act that we all know and love, right? Thank you so much, Pan, by the way, for making me do that, brother.
Oh, the POEC.
That's right.
That's fun.
Right, but they want to do another one over here, but specifically about the government's reaction. And this private members bill, C-293, well, all this didn't happen, I guess. They just rejected it. Liberal MPs in the Commons Health Committee yesterday rejected the public inquiry into the federal pandemic management. Cabinet favored instead a closed-door review by advisors to the Minister of Health. Okay, so just kind of showing you the juxtaposing those two things. But let's get back to the mainstream news, where they'll give you pages and pages of this about how
The more important stuff.
the more important stuff, right? Just kind of putting those things back to back, so you can figure that one out. Yeah, and I want to say to my sister, okay, before I continue here, this is a little personal note, because she's dealing with something right now. And it's a sense of loss, like with Matthew Perry. She's being made to work in a place where there's bed bugs, and I want to tell you, and she's really considering not doing it. And I said to her, babe, don't work where there's bed bugs. It's not worth it, okay? Don't work where there's bed bugs. Because I don't want you having bed bugs, Ange. All right? And I don't know, I thought about her. It's like the difficulties in life, you know what I mean, Pam? The difficulties in life when you lose somebody or you're being forced to work in a place where there's...
And thank goodness for the internet where you could, tell her, she's here right in the chat. You can just tell her right on YouTube. You don't have to call her or talk to her face to face. You don't have to do anything normal that normal family members do. You can just say it right here where everyone can hear it, and she'll get the message. And no, you're right though. You don't want to work around bed bugs.
You don't
Why
want
are
to.
they making her do that?
You don't want to, right? Matthew Perry was doing really well before tragic deaths as his pickle coach. Okay.
Pickleball.
Pickleball.
What the heck is pickleball?
Yeah, what is pickleball? I thought this is an American thing. You play pickleball?
I don't know. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Pickleball. Look, he's owning the entire pickleball results in Google now. He is pickleball, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, that's one thing that's good. You know, he's going to be remembered for that, you know, forever.
Pickleball. Yeah.
I mean, people want to be sad that, you know, everyone's really sad, but I say celebrate this man. You know, he was your favorite actor. He was your favorite Canadian, maybe. You know, he was the greatest pickleball player of all time.
And he was a handsome fellow. He was a really handsome fellow in his later years. Right. I like how the son picked that photo. Look at that photo of him.
Greatest damn pickleball player of all time right there.
This is how I feel in the morning, you know, when I get out of bed after I've been just bathing all night. Literally bathing all night, man. I feel like this.
Yeah, you've been spending, I've seen your Twitter, you've been spending a lot of time in the bathtub lately, just like Matthew Perry.
Yeah, you know what? It's dangerous. Be careful. 3 inches of water, it could all end for you. Okay. Well, I think we're pretty much done. Except there is one theory. You want to hit that theory? This theory might actually get us struck. Okay, I'm telling you right now.
Oh yay!
No, it's I think we gotta hit it, man. I don't think we can live.
Well, people are talking about it. I mean, this is the big topic. You know, Matthew Perry, the greatest Canadian pickleball player of all time.
I'm telling you right now, brother. Hold your horses. Here we go.
Okay, this is from my ex-Twitter, an account called MJ Truth Ultra.
Uh-oh.
It says, the drowning death of Matthew Perry keeps getting weirder. One of the last things he posted was a video of his hands placing 3 cranberries on a table. The lead singer of the Cranberries, Dolores O'Riordan, died of an accidental drowning in 2018. Just weird. This is in combination with other weird things. His last photo was in a hot tub where he ended up drowning. Batman comms. The Perry Mason misspelling by Trump are our Perry.
I don't think we can show this video because it's too deep, but I just wanted to put this out here. 3 cranberries on the table, a video of his hands. I don't know what that means. Okay, but the internet is a weird place, so there you go. All right, you figured
and
out.
Paul McCartney is also dead.
Sorry to hear that, brother. I'm really sorry to hear that. Let's hit the hard-hitting news. Who and why is Sophie Gregoire such a hoe? Okay, let's. Right. It turns out that Miss Piggy herself, who Trudeau has meat hammered at least 3 times.
Like Kermit.
like Kermit the Frog, also known as Jordan Benzos Peterson. Right, Kermit. Imagine if Kermit and Miss Piggy actually did it. Miss Piggy was crushing. In any case, it turns out that she was banging another dude the whole time. If you'd be so kind, man. Oh, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I was going loopy there. Am I back? Okay.
Yeah.
From the National Post, it says Sophie Gregoire Trudeau repartnered with Ottawa doctor ex-wife claims in divorce petition. The surgeon's ex-wife cited discomfort and security concerns over the new relationship months before announcement of Trudeau's separation.
She is a home wrecker. She's a home wrecker. And now his ex-wife, the surgeon's ex-wife, the surgeon that Sophie Gregoire was having open leg surgery performed on her, has actually come out, the ex-wife, and says, listen, right? So Anna Raimondo is the ex-wife of this surgeon, Dr. Marcos Bettoli, and we're going to be talking about Italian things today, right? I don't know, how do you say this last name? You're an Italian.
Bettoli.
There you go, man. If I saw olive oil, right, at Metro or Superstore and it said Bettoli, right, I'd be like, that is Italian olive oil. And I would buy it to put on my
Authentic.
right, yeah, to put on my alfaghetti. All right, so he's Dr. Marcos Bettoli is repartnered with a high-profile individual, this big Sophie Gregoire seaweed, who attracts significant media attention and presents significant security considerations. Okay, so if her claim is accurate, it could give new context to the demise of the Trudeau marriage and shows the challenges that Gregoire Trudeau, high-profile hoe, faces as she tries to move on from her former life and the police protection it required. There she is. I just don't. You know what? I don't find her attractive. I don't know why. I think it's the Miss Piggy thing. I think I just see Miss Piggy. Is that me? You know?
Hermie? me a kiss, Kermie.
Holy, I didn't know you could do Miss Piggy.
Neither did I.
Yeah? Okay, so we looked up Marcos Bertoli, right, so that you didn't have to. Turns out he's at U Ottawa. He's a surgeon in U Ottawa. Let me pull up a couple photos. There he is. Oh, he doesn't have a photo here. All right, so this is, he's working at, hold on a second, let me accept all cookies. Please track me. Director, University of Ottawa, Pediatric Surgery. Hey, good for him. You know what I mean? That's a good job. Room, Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, CHIO, right here. All right, and he is, I guess he's a doctor. He's gastrointestinal dysmotility and minimal invasive surgery. That's what he does. He became an associate professor, University of Ottawa, and now he is performing minimal invasive surgery on Trudeau's.
Gives a lot of enemas.
Trudeau's ex-wife. Okay, so there you go. Check it out. What do you think of this couple right over here? Take a look at this. What do you think?
What's he wearing?
What's he wearing? That is.
Is that like underwear on his head? What
No,
is that?
no, that's a kippah, bro.
Oh,
What's wrong with you? That's a kippah, man. Don't say
what
that
the
about
heck is that?
Don't say that about Israel, all right?
It's like a diaper.
That's a kippah. That is a kippah. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made you out of clay. Oh, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. Today we shall F in the butt. So, so there you go. Okay, just if you were wondering, you know, you might say, hey, I hate Trudeau, F Trudeau. Well, I'll tell you what, don't worry, because he was getting cucked by this dude right here. All right? So, there it is. Make yourself feel better at home. Let's see here. Ramonda, his ex-wife, says she takes no positions on Bertoli's personal life, but the new relationship has created unspecified security concerns that his children is exposed to, the ones that he puts out on social media. She's requested court order to ensure the privacy and protection of her two children. There you go. Gat, what do you think, man? This being put out there, is this in poor taste, or should we laugh at the fact that they are...
Right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of funny that Trudeau's getting cucked. I mean, I think
I like that.
the people of Canada will enjoy that one, right? And I mean, she's actually cheating with a dude who, I mean, he looks like, I don't know, like I agree with Payne. What the hell's that on his head? You know
That's
what I mean?
keep up,
Like,
bro.
People are saying it's like a surgeon's little thing. I think like to keep his hair out of the wounds that he's surgically repairing or whatnot.
kind of looks like a do-rag, and he's like a wannabe gangbanger too.
No, don't say. No, you know what this
What's up,
is?
dog?
I don't think
Yeah.
so. I'm just looking at this dude. This guy, I'm just telling you right now, he eats ass. You know what? This dude.
What?
Yeah.
He does? How can you tell? Is it because his beard is brown?
No, I just see the hunger in his eyes. You know what I mean?
Oh, damn.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of hunger.
This is hunger in his eyes.
Ass.
All right. Speaking of
What the
Italian,
hell?
speaking of Italians, Native Americans, and all the rest, you see this photo, Pan. What ethnicity am I looking at right? What ethnicity am I looking at?
I don't know. Maybe like Martian. Maybe she's from Uranus. I don't know. What the heck is this?
Neanderthal.
Neanderthal. Yes, I can see that. Neanderthal. I would say. I mean, I'm looking at the. I'm just getting, you know, a clan mother, den mother, bear mother, right? I know in BC they do a lot of this bear stuff. They're like, I'm small bear, I'm little bear, I'm tiny peepee bear. I mean, I'm just getting a lot of that kind of that vibe, you know. Gotta remember on the cover.
Okay.
Yeah. There's dot Indian, feather Indian. This to me is a feather Indian. Clear case of feather Indian. Turns out I'm wrong the entire time. And this lady over here, okay, I think they actually did a full CBC article. This is it, right? So it turns out that there's this famous Canadian person called Buffy St. Marie, which I don't even know. The only Buffy I know is Buffy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? Which was a great show, by the way. And I know that Nick, hail the chat, Nick in the chat, our moderator, he actually is a huge super fan of the spin-off show.
I have no
Buffy
idea,
called
man.
Angel.
Bust Nick out on that.
Damn.
massive fan. Okay. Anyway, so let's see who
Hail
Buffy.
Nick.
Hail Nick, hail brother. Right. So let's see who Buffy is. Apparently, she was on Sesame Street. Let's see if this loads.
I was just coming down from visiting my folks in Cree Reservation in Canada.
Oh, yeah?
Who knows?
Oh, a reservation. Are you Indian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, really?
My sister read me a story about Indians.
Was it a real story about Indians or was it a fairy tale?
It was a real one.
It was a real one. Because some of them are fairy tales and some of them are real. Some are just pretend and some are real.
Yeah.
I'm real.
You know what really bothers me is how white people don't want to pretend that they're curry Indians. You know what I mean?
Right? They'd rather be feather, not dawn.
Like, can I get a couple white people being like, hey, you know, hello, my name is Raja, you know, and I'd be like, oh, hey, actually, that's not true. I had a friend of mine named Steve growing up, and I used to live in his basement. Well, anyhow, it's a long story. But Steve actually took a yoga class and renamed himself to Anand, okay? But he would call himself Anand. And I would be like, bro, like, your name is, it's not Anand, dude, it's Anand. That's, I would be, so that was actually the first time that I met a dude, like a regular white person who wanted to be a dot Indian, not a feather Indian. But a lot of apparently white people want to be feather Indians. There's something about it. I think there's a cachet, right, God? I mean, there's a cachet around it. Yeah.
I think it's like a thing that's told to a lot of white people depending on where they grow up. And
Okay.
Like, oh no, you have Indian in your family, and so it's kind of like, I don't know, something they aspire to be. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think they want to use it for victimhood. Like, you know, the dot Indians, the East Indians, they aren't like considered victims here in the West. You know, like the quote indigenous Indians are. So they use that so they can get like this sympathy and maybe some sort of emotional stimulation they were lacking as a child. I don't know. I'm not Sigmund Freud, but hey.
It sure sounds like you are, man. You're like, I would, if you told me, hey, Ro, I'm actually Sigmund Freud, I would believe you. You know, that kind of clues into me looking at these black Israelis, right? The black Hebrewites. That's a thing, apparently, right? Now here they're fighting with these Palestinian supporters, but which is great because I like them to just hit each other with sticks. I think it's great.
You know, all these leftists going at each other. You know, it's kind of funny. You know, the Hebrews, the black Hebrews, they didn't want to be left out. They're feeling left out. They're like, no, you're not going to forget about us.
Right? Okay. I feel like it's the same kind of thing. We're there. And this is, I don't want to be racially insensitive, but Gat, we're Africans in Israel in that part of the world.
Well, I'm sure there were like outliers, right? But no, in general, no.
I'm gonna, like, I hate to do this. I don't want to fact check you live, okay? But I'm gonna type black Jews into Google, okay? And I'm just going to see well, hold on a second. They got the ADL here popping up. And we've got the ADL's coming clear with it. They say, you'd be so kind, Pam.
Extremist sex within the Black Hebrew Israelite movement.
Yeah, you're making me want a bagel. Let's see your key points.
Black Hebrew Israelites are not the same as black Jews or Jews of color. Not all black Hebrew Israelite organizations are anti-Semitic or extremist. The Black Hebrew Israelite movement is divided into organizations and sects that operate semi-independently across the United States. Black Hebrew Israelites believe that they are true Israelites,
Oh, man.
and that the 12 tribes of Israel are people of color.
Okay, so there you go. So you got the black.
Popular activities include street teachings and public speaking events. Extremist sects heavily rely on social media to spread information.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? So the black Hebrews are Hebrew Israelites. This is the thing, I guess, the ADL knows about them. Look, you can find your local ADL. Okay, you can find your local one if you want to kind of go and club up. You know what I mean? Join up. Racist. And these guys, it's amazing to me how their whole, for a while there, right? It was ban the ADL. The ADL was the opponent. They were shutting down free speech all over the internet. They were disallowing you from just being who you were. You know what I mean? Loving who you love. Like Sophie Gregoire with the surgeon, the Italian surgeon, was in there. But now they are, the darling of the right, right? They're the darling of the right. The ADL is, forget anti-free speech, yay and yes to Ben Shapiro, and yes to bomb, 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 right? That's just what it is. And yeah, I don't know. It's just amazing how the fortunes can reverse like that. Like in the snap of a finger, your fortunes can reverse, absolutely change. I want to show you something here. Now, this is a little disturbing. Apart from her being I believe still, to me, like if you look this much like a Native American, I think that you should be able to be a Native American if you really go to this distance. You know what I mean? And it's like this. There should be a clause like, how native do you look? If you look this native, to me at least, I think I would totally accept it completely. I want to show you something here. This is a little bit more extreme, but it's something interesting to show, okay, and something to be aware of. Now this is, so I'm going to ignore this whole, like what this article is about or what this video is about, but all I want to show you here is that this guy comes to the door, this is a SWAT team, and he's got the code to this ring alarm or whatever it's called, I don't know, the doorbells, I don't use all this technology on my doors, and he just opens it up and goes in. I thought that was crazy. You see that? He literally just, I'll start the video again. We'll loop again.
How did he get the code?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying here. So check this one out, guy. The guy comes in, this police officer.
Yeah, this is why I don't like this modern technology crap attached to your house. If you want to come in my house, you got to kick my door in, buddy.
Right. I just thought that was really, like, I saw the article, didn't understand, didn't really care. Saw the police officer pressing the buttons on the electrical, the computerized doorbell, knowing the code, and I was like, did they get the code from the company? What's happening here? Too weird to me, right? Too weird. So this is where it's more like a PSA, but I wanted to put this up just to show people, I don't trust these electronic doorbells. As a computer programmer, my passwords are usually 4 ones. But over here, maybe that's just what he did. He's just like, is it 1, 2, 3, 4? And he just opens it up. I don't know, but that was really weird to me. And speaking about this, we're talking about how they've rejected, the liberals actually voted against a public inquiry on this pandemic management. We now have people talking about amnesty, and that's coming back up on Bill Maher's show. If you'd be so kind, man. Let's take a look at this. This is a little disturbing.
Okay. From X, formerly Twitter, Michael P. Senger, it says, NYU professor calls for COVID amnesty on Bill Maher. I wanted a harsher lockdown policy. In retrospect, I was wrong, but here's the bottom line. We're doing our best. Let's give a little grace and forgiveness. No.
Right? I want to see this, though. I want to see this clip. And let's, and Pat, feel free to just interrupt, and I'm going to pause it, and I want to hear, because I don't think I can actually say what I feel. I think my emotions are too raw. And what I've done is that I've transmuted my emotions into sexual energy.
Oh.
Right. It's the I read this book by Napoleon Dynamite, right, and it was called Think and Grow Rich, and it was basically about the transmutation of energy, and that's what I've done. Let's take a look here.
Well, I was on the board of my kid's school during COVID. I wanted a harsher lockdown policy, and in retrospect, I was wrong.
Initial thoughts.
You're a moron for trying to take people's freedoms away, and then in retrospect, you realized you were a moron.
The damage to kids of keeping them out of school longer was greater than the risks. But here's the bottom line. Myself, our great people, the CDC, I'd like to think the governor, we were all operating with imperfect information, and we were doing our best. So,
yes, you were operating with imperfect information, and the first thing you think of is take people's rights away. Yeah, great.
So let's learn from it. Let's learn from it.
The clapping, I think the applause really just, oh man, I want to hump the chair. I literally, Penn, I want to bend this chair over so bad, and I want to teach it who's daddy. I want to teach it that I am. Teach Sophie Gregoire that I am her daddy.
Hey, like, fuck that Cuomo guy sitting there, too.
Daddy.
On the other side, if he has any choice in this, he's not
I'll
saying
be your
jack
Kermit.
shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I have to do it from behind because I cannot look at her face because she looks like Miss Piggy. I'm so sorry.
Learn from it. Let's hold each other accountable, but let's bring a little bit of grace and forgiveness in the shit show that was COVID.
Yeah.
No. No.
Gat,
Why should we forgive them when they're planning on doing it again?
Ooh,
I mean-
whoa. I don't know what you're talking about.
Allegedly.
I don't know what you're talking about at all. Right? Would they do another lockdown? I don't know. Would they do another lockdown? And I'm gonna leave it right there on that one. What do you think, though, Gat? This guy asking for amnesty and the rest here. And the way
Well,
he's
look,
doing it.
it's great that these dudes come to the realization that he was wrong. People don't like to admit that they're wrong nowadays, so I'll give them a tiny bit of credit. But I think in order to make everything better, you know those little stands where they got like people line up and they throw tomatoes at people?
Yes.
Like anyone who's vaxxed needs to go and get in line, and then everyone who's unvaxxed get in line the other line. Unvaxxed people get. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say that? Can I get a tomato and they can throw it at and feed people?
Sign me up.
I'll feel better then. Maybe.
Well, I would only say this to that, right? I would say a lot of people who did. I mean, this is, I know my mother wanted to see her mother go to her funeral. She was actually given that end-of-life care. Turned out, I only found this out relatively recently, but my grandmother was actually in one of those old people's homes, and they gave her, like I found this out very recently, actually. They gave her, we just thought she died a natural death, but it turned out that they had, given her a certain something there in the elderly home. So, yeah, my mother, after that happened, my mother actually wanted to go to the funeral, right? So she had to take those shots to do that. She wanted to, so I can't blame everybody who's taking them. I think I would, for the tomato thing, right, the stocks. I would put in the stocks of people who push this kind of stuff, like this guy over here, who now begs, or at least he's not even. He's putting an emotional display. Like, I don't trust your emotions. That's happened to me before. I know I've got a soft spot for people who cry. Right, I still remember when Peter Foley, the chief of police here in Ottawa, was crying, and I kind of felt bad for him because he was crying. I just like. I really like when people cry, but
Peter Slowly, he was a emotional man,
yeah,
emotional black man.
Emotional. That's right. He was an emotional black man, prone to fits of rage. But that was just his thing, and that's part of his culture. So we can't just, say, hey, he was wrong about that, because that's part of his culture. Part of his culture is just, throwing stuff and
To be emotional.
Part of his
Be emotional and have outbursts. And
that's part of his culture. So we shouldn't judge other people, is what I'm trying to say.
No, we have to be sensitive to these cultural
differences.
aspects.
Yeah, cultural aspects. Okay, we have to be sensitive to people's differences in their cultures. Here we go. We've got this bot, Illuminati bot, who says, there you go, he finally came out and said it. Pan, if you'd be so kind to just, critique what he's saying here, because this is kind of strange. All right, it's Joe Biden, and he's giving a little speech. Let's take a look at this. 52 seconds.
I think, my mother had an expression, out of everything terrible, something good will come if you look hard enough for it. I think this presents us with some significant opportunities to make some real changes. We are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations.
Okay, so what's your first thoughts on this, Pan? I hear a lot of rumbling and grumbling from him. Inflection point. We're in an inflection point. Do you feel like we're in an inflection point? What is an inflection point? Yeah.
I'm not even sure what he means. I don't think anyone can make heads or tails of what this guy says, actually. So, I mean, it's just all BS.
FJB.
As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 19.
Wait a second. Did he just say? Is he repeating information from a secure meeting? Is that what he said?
People said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while.
Sorry, what?
What the F is a liberal world order? I don't like the sounds of that.
Whoa. Stop it,
He said the quiet part out loud.
Stop. A liberal world order. What would that look like?
Look, whoever's writing his speech, like this is it's like either total incompetence or it's intentional, right? For him to say those words in that order, they know that that's going to set off a shitstorm, right? So that's what I'm saying. At this point, it's either the speechwriter who's totally incompetent, or this is intentional and they're trying to piss people off with him saying stuff like that.
They're to a point where they feel comfortable enough to start normalizing it, you know? Like, I think they're trying to this new world order, liberal world order, it's a great thing. It's for the benefit of everybody. It's so good. You know, I think maybe they're trying to normalize it.
Well, factcheck.org, okay, is actually going to correct us here. It turns out that this is a decades-old term that we're just misinterpreting. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. It actually refers to a system of global cooperation. A Biden administration advisor used the term to explain why gasoline prices are tied to the war in Ukraine. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so that was they've used this before, it turns out. And we're just misinterpreting things, guys. That's what it is.
Of course we are.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, we literally are just misinterpreting things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, liberal world order. Yeah, all right. Well, I guess so. Fact check says.
A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. We're going to
Keep
have
wearing
a
this.
new world order out there. And we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it.
He did it twice.
Right? I want that old like techno metal band Ministry to bust a new world order. You know, if you remember that song, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, maybe we're just. I want to give Sophie the benefit of the doubt. I want to say that she just met Batoli, you know, at a mixer, at a wine and cheese mixer, and got on her hands and knees and just raised it up in the air. Not that she's been doing it for so long. I want to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt here too, and also believe all people. Right, that's what I want to do.
Believe all Bidens. Believe all Brandons.
Believe all Brandon. That's what I want to do. We got Redux magazine who says, it's a weird one.
Okay, Germany. Students at the University of Augsburg have called for handicap-accessible glory holes to be installed on the campus, citing diversification. The students argued that having spaces for anonymous sex would ensure the safety of queer students. Yeah. Why do they have glory holes at a university anyway? What is this, bro? This is the dirtiest university ever. What are you majoring in? Like freaking anal diseases? What is this?
I'm with you,
I
Peg.
think this proves that handicapped people are the horniest of all.
I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does.
What is this?
I don't know if it does. But I just want to say
Why?
no. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to be honest here. I've actually heard of.
How sick this one is, bros. Oh my god.
So
this
there is a
so
very
sick.
famous activist here in Ottawa. Okay, and she's confronted my wife and children before, right? She
That's so
rides a
fucking sick.
bicycle, and this is the protest circuit. You know what I mean? The activist circuit, and she's actually the most well-known glory hole personality on the glory hole circuit. So I'm artist, glory hole artist. Okay.
Is she an artist? Wow.
Yeah. So this is
glory hole operator. I think you're talking about Ham Beast, right?
Yes.
They call her Nugs or something like that, and she's a Ham Beast.
Right. She's very, very girthy, very fat.
So sick.
And she's got these videos on social media where she literally measures out how she's going to pay rent. She says, okay, that's 10 dicks. You know, I need to get groceries. That's 3 dicks. That's just how they do it out there. So this degeneration is, I would say, highly tied to the protest circuit, as well as spreading across the land. And I for one reject it, because I don't want syphilis. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say right now. I think we stand united on this one, don't we, Pan? Against this?
Indeed we do.
Okay.
Hail, brother.
Hail, brother, we do. All right. Speaking of degeneracy, we've got the housing minister, federal housing advocate, excuse me. All right, the housing minister, of course, is that Fraser fellow. This is the federal housing advocate, or at least one of them. Marie-Josée Oulet is from Blackhawks. Amazing outfit, again, Blackhawks reporter. And she writes in a report, right, to Parliament, suggested that MPs consider decriminalizing drug trafficking in tent cities. Suggestions for government included decriminalizing drug possession for personal use, as well as the sharing or selling of drugs for subsistence to support personal drug use costs, as well as the sharing or selling of drugs, says the report. The proposal was highlighted under the title Treat Encampment Residents with Dignity and Respect. Okay, so again, just to get this point home, she's saying that to subsidize the cost of their own personal drug use costs,
it's just like blue here.
that these people are selling drugs, and we should decriminalize that. Decriminalize the sharing or selling of drugs for subsistence to support personal. I'm just doing it because I got to support my own habits. So that's where we're at here, right? You think Germany's crazy, and you're looking at that, or these universities with their weird sexual deviancies. Okay, absolutely sick stuff. But look at this. I mean, this, and we do know that this MAID stuff in 2024, it's going to be A-OK if you've got any kind of mental problem or mental illness or whatever. That will be enough of a reason in March of 2024 for you to be eligible, right? And that's under the guise of equality and equal access.
Oh yeah, now we're talking.
So this person right here, Marie-Josée Oulet, building relationships, seeking justice for homeless populations, and covering complexities of
It's gonna be sick.
And I just look at it right here, and you just, to me,
Saskatoon, in her role.
I'm sorry about that. It was a robot. But I pressed this robot button. It was like be robot. I look at this lady right away. What's your thoughts, man? I don't want to kind of prejudge and presuppose, and also kind of just right into you.
I'm assuming she was once homeless.
I don't know about that. I just see her and I look at, you know, like a liberal world order, bleeding heart, to the point where your mind can be so open that it falls out, right? There's an open mind, and then your mind being so open that your brain falls right out. That's the feeling I get.
With that.
Appointed to a role in February 2022, Oulet's mandate is to promote and protect the right to housing in Canada and drive change on key systemic housing issues. I'm just going to see if that report is on. I think I got it. Oh, no, that's pickleball. Here it is. It's this. Treat encampment residents with dignity and respect. Let's see if we can get that. The Advocate's Review of Homeless Encampments through a Human Rights Lens. So Canada's got homelesshub.ca. That's cool. Homelesshub.ca, the hub for homeless people. You just could, you can be on the street shivering, and you can just go to your website. You got your own site, social media.
You got your homeless cell phone. Do your homeless web search and find a homeless shelter.
Homelesshub.ca. Actually, I feel like that's a new app idea. You know that? Like Uber, but for the homeless. Like you basically go in and it goes, except to share my location, precise, approximate. I hit precise, so you know exactly where I am. And then it tells me, hey, Ro, you can actually go to this shelter right here. It's right near your house. And it's called your mom's basement.
Alright, that's good enough for now.
Perfect.
Leave it like that.
It's like, I'm already there, but thank you, app. Thank you, app. Homeless Hub. I feel it's an app idea. You know what I mean? Gad, do you want to become a millionaire, bro? Do you want to start this idea? I think it's an app.
Bro, look, I'm not even taking it as a joke. I think that's an amazing idea. You know that? I mean, I don't know how much money's in it. It's kind of we're we're kind of putting it towards people who don't have money, right?
Right.
So I don't know
Oh.
what type of character is involved, but
Right.
Brilliant.
Great
Brilliant.
idea.
Right. Right. I know. I get what you're saying. Okay. So you've looked at the target market and you're like, this market is not a demographic that actually has spare change to give to this.
Right.
Right.
That's the problem here.
Right. Right.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, we can work that out.
Stamps.
Maybe. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. You want to hear a story, Pat? You want to hear a story?
Want your story? Want your story?
Right. So there I am, right? I'm wearing a plaid shirt, and I'm wearing these. My jeans are kind of grimy or whatever, right? Because I haven't showered. Right, I'm from India, and I'm sitting on a park bench, right by, right in the market. Right. This is the Ottawa Byward Market, and I see this homeless dude approaching, and I'm with my cousins. It's my brother's wedding. It's 2007. My cousin's visiting from England, a bunch of them. And he's just like kind of hanging back from me, and he watches this interaction. And after that, he's like, "Bro, that was legendary, right? It was so amazing." I'm sitting there, I see a homeless dude. He's coming to me, and before he can ask me for change, I just go, "Hey, bro, you got a bus ticket?" and the homeless guy, he puts his hands in his pockets. He's like, "No, man, I don't have nothing." I out homeless a homeless dude.
Right? You saw it coming and you stopped it before it could happen. You know,
I sure
well done.
did. Thank you, brother. Thank you. I always feel like I feel like you can do that. You know what I mean? You can be like, "Hey, bruh," you know what I mean? Spare some change. All right. We got this guy, Colin Rugg. Let's take a look at this.
Okay, it says, just in, new South Park episode blasts Disney and says all their movies suck now, and specifically blames Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. Remarkable. Joining the Panderverse drops today, and all the main characters have been replaced by minority women, an obvious mockery of the woke film industry. Cartman specifically blames Kathleen Kennedy for why the Disney movies all suck now. Kennedy was responsible for overseeing the Star Wars films.
All right, let's watch a little bit of this, and if you'd be so kind, Pat, to give us your commentary. Let's go, because I think you know South Park, right? Pat? You were watching this.
Yeah, I watched this episode. It was pretty funny. I thought the idea was clever. You know, it was good.
Here we go.
Why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse? But then Kenny's like, it's not our fault, it's because of Kathleen Kennedy. But then Kathleen Kennedy's just like, fuck it, make it more lame. And everyone in town is like, no, please, Kathleen Kennedy, stop ruining everything. But Kathleen Kennedy is all like, put another gay diverse woman in it.
This is good, yeah, I like this. It's pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Oh, fucking lame. And the Disney stock just keeps going down and down and down. And then Bob Iger is all like, no, what's going on with my stock?
Oh shit, yeah, this is pretty good. I like this, man. This show hasn't been funny. Are they still playing this? Is this still something that they do anymore or what?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't watched the newer seasons, but I did watch this. The old seasons are classic. I don't know about the new stuff though. I couldn't tell you.
I saw the Panderstone for the first time a few years ago.
Oh god.
Bob Iger took us to the...
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, man, I like it. I think it's. We know movies suck now. They're unwatchable. I'm at the point right now where I can't even. Netflix, you know, man, I still remember I watched this show. It's called Star Trek Degeneracy, STD, right? And I had to turn it off. And I got no problem with, you know, dudes gaping each other, whatever they do.
What?
But I'm watching Star Trek Degeneracy, and there's this scene, these two dudes. All right, I'm just gonna show this. Like, I mean, and I got nothing against it, except I can't watch it.
No.
Right? Degeneracy, first kiss, French
Was
kiss.
was that fruitcake Wesley Crusher on that one? What's his name?
No, I got
it's North American Grappling Association.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just tired of seeing it. I saw some video the other day of some guy. I think it was a jiu-jitsu tournament, and this fucking dude is just choking the piss out of some woman.
That's just how I thought. I mean, I thought
Yeah,
they
it's
come up-
southern Italy. There was a lot of mixing in the Mediterranean back in the day, so yeah, they're kind of a little bit of muddy people.
Okay.
They got some darkies.
There's a little bit of mud in all of this, right? There's a little bit of mud in all of this. Okay. German police union says it'll take more than 80 years to deport around 50,000 people.
Damn.
It's like, you know what? You sit down, you say, hey, okay, listen, we're doing this as a country. We're in for the long haul. All right, but we are going to deport everybody. We're going to do it. It's going to take 80 years, but we are going to do this. We're going to do this. And I feel like Canada needs to start doing the same thing. Can we just start deporting now? Because it's going to take 80 years. So we really should start now. We should
at least.
Yeah.
With all the immigration that Canada's seen in the last few years, it may take 100 years.
It may take 150 years. It may take the amount of time between 1876 and 2023, whatever that is exactly. It may take all that time, but I think we need to start doing that. I think we need to seriously consider doing that, right? And you got this from the National Post. Here we go.
Canadian government cracks down on foreign student admissions. The influx of foreign students has exacerbated housing shortages, leaving many without proper accommodation and flooded labor markets in some regions without enough jobs.
And you know, my sister said this to me on the phone, right? So I called her from the bath, okay? And I'm splishing and splashing. And she goes to me, Ro, all the friggin' people that I work with are immigrants. None of them can speak English. None of them can speak English. You know, and she's telling me, she goes, I can't even communicate with them. That's my problem. It's not because of your skin color, right? It's because I can't communicate, and all I want to do is I want to feel you so deep inside of me. Like Sophie Gregoire.
Oh my God.
Dr. Bertoli, right? With his, what do they call that thing that they use to measure your heartbeat? You know, they put it on their chest.
The stethoscope?
Stethoscope, thank you. I was going to say spatula. But, you know what I mean? I want to put, if you put that stethoscope on Sophie Gregoire's beating chest, as soon as she sees Bertoli, it is beating so fast. So fast. Anyhow, okay, so Canadian government cracking down. I think this is great. You got this picture of the immigration minister, Mark Miller. Okay, not to be confused with Mark Millar. This guy right here with his hands wide open saying, hey, listen, you know, what can I do? There's too many of them. These people of the mud, they're just coming in. I needed, you know, that's the feeling I get seeing him. He's got a new framework on Friday. It's going to push universities and colleges to set a higher standard for services. Now, bear in mind that most of these PR immigrants are people seeking a PR, which is a, whatever it stands for, right? The PR, getting your paperwork to be in Canada. To get that, they will actually sign up to colleges that are not really, you know, institutions for real learning that you're going to get anywhere with, but it's just a way to get your permanent residency. That's all it is. It's just to get your permanent residency, your PR. And now they're talking about setting a higher benchmark. But this time, right, the government has been making stacks of money. These educational institutions have been making tons of money. And they've been propping up the GDP with this, right? Foreign students are charged. We know how much they're charged. The rest of this, we know that they're living in, you know, 50 of them to a room, right? People of the mud. The number of foreign students in Canada has tripled in about a decade to more than 800,000 last year. The experiences of international students are too complex. And remember, these numbers are not worked into standard immigration numbers that you see, because these are people who are technically students. And by the way, they're able to work now full time, right, as students. That has changed since this endemic that hit us, this pandemic stuff. They made a stipulation and a rule, and they're still allowed to work full time. So that's why it's hard for you to compete when you're, you know, Germany's got the right idea, right? Deport them. The experiences of international students too complex for the federal government to stomp in and pretend that it has all the solutions in establishing a visa cap. Is this just throwing up your hands saying it's too complex, that we can't just do this? What do you think? Feels to me like the government has no problem talking about nationalizing grocery stores, but they won't put the cap on immigration, right? Actually forcing grocery CEOs to cut prices, or else we're going to come after you. We're going to cut the prices for you. We're going to give you an extra tax. Well, actually tax you, what they've been saying. They're going to give you another tax. But something like this, they just punt. What do you think, Gad, when you see something like this? What's your feeling?
I think it's a lot harder to embezzle money if you actually solve problems through the government, and that's why, right? They're not out to solve problems. They're out here to make as much money as they can for them and their buddies at the end of the day. So yeah, sure, the root problem would be maybe getting rid of some immigrants, but nah. Instead, let's do everything that's going to hurt regular Canadians, basically.
I'm telling you, man, and it's like I look at my sister, right, who is let's say she's like a darker white. Okay, she's like me. She's a darker white, and you know, she just can't. She lives in this. I want to say hovel. Okay. I mean, it's a nice place. It's a really nice place, but kind of spiritually, you know what I mean? I just want her to see her to have that Canadian dream, and she can't. She can't have that Canadian dream. And she's married, you know, a man of Scottish descent, James, who is, I mean, Pan, how would you describe him?
He's kind of a meek fellow. He wears a backpack indoors, kind of awkward. You know, nice guy though.
Nice guy, good dude. Good dude. He gave me a lift when I lost my car downtown. That's right, in the summertime, and I couldn't. You know, I made my way home, stumbling and bumbling, and I get home, and the next day I'm like, I need to get my car, dude. Where's my car? And James drove me around downtown looking for it. So thank you for that, James. Appreciate it. And I guess his intent was good, right? And the intent of so many of the liberal world order is good. It's to say, hey, everyone's welcome into the country, and we can build a country. It's not about your color, your skin, your ethnicity. But the trouble is that you can't save the whole world, and you can't just bring in every refugee. You just can't do it. You know, it's adding. It's like, put it this way, right? Let's say you make a pasta, and there's a little bit of sand on your hands because you went to the beach, and a little bit of sand goes into your pasta. You can still eat it if there's a couple grains of sand in there. You're not really going to notice a little bit of grit here and there, but you're going to be okay. But if you just dump that whole sand castle in your pasta, then you are eating sand. You're not eating pasta anymore. Anyhow, we got this. I thought this was a
And popcorn, just like Mom makes. Love it.
Good analogy.
Thank you. I don't know if it was, but it felt good when I was saying it. Pan, this tweet right here, I wanted to do a little bit of philosophy here. Okay? Take a look at this tweet, and I thought this was so interesting to me because I thought it was so stimulating. All right? So this bear ladder says, yes.
Okay, it says, from this somewhat distant vantage point, a humanist has to take a moral stance. For me, the litmus test of the morality of an action is intent. So one side in this conflict cheers the deaths of their enemies. I'm on the other side. Hashtag stand with Israel.
Okay, so I thought this was so interesting because this idea here, so let's forget this geopolitical stuff. Let's forget about Palestine, Israel, all these, you know, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern people that we don't actually care about, right? We don't really, doesn't bother me. Not interested to know. You know, I care about my circle of concern, right? I took this online personality test and it came out wrong. I think the website was bugged. And it's because it didn't capture the thing that I don't care about people who are outside of my circle of concern because I can't care about everybody. It's like when you hear about a flood that happens in, you know, some far-flung Cambodia, say. There's a flood that happened and, you know, 30,000 rice eaters just get swept away to sea, right? It's sad. It sucks. But I don't cry. I'm not crying right now because I don't know them, right? I don't feel like that's it. I feel like I would. You ever have to pinch yourself when you're at a funeral? You know what I mean? Just so you. Anyhow, what I'm saying here, it goes. For me, the litmus test of the morality of an action is intent. I thought this was so wrong. I thought this was so absolutely wrong, and I think I see this argument repeated all the time. It is the intent of the action is your litmus test of the morality of that action. And I would say, no, it's the consequence of your action will then tell you whether your action was correct, righteous, or not. Do you know what I'm saying, Pan? Like the difference being well-meaning and saying that...
You can be well-meaning and still, like, screw it all up for everybody.
Exactly. Exactly what I'm trying to say here. And I feel like this is, like, if I was voted in, or not voted in, let's say that I had a magic wand, okay, abracadabra, and I could just, you know, literally just orchestrate the Middle East. I'd be like, look, sit down in your corners, first of all, time out. Okay, time out. I'm not allowed to hit you, and you know I'm not allowed to hit you because CPS will come knocking at my door. Right, so just time out, first of all, time out. time out, or I swear I'm gonna beat you. If you don't sit in your corners, I'm gonna beat you. Okay. After that, right? I would be like, it's not about, you know, who was here, where was what, you know, whatever you believe. It's about where we are right now, and it's exactly this. I need a consequence. I need an action. I need something that can be solved and done. Right? I need something that can be done. It's not about how I feel. It's about the outcome where people can live together. Am I just solving Israel and Palestine right now, man? Am I literally solving the Middle East crisis?
You just did it. You just solved it.
Do you know what
there.
You know what I'm saying? It's that this idea that just because I want to do good, right? It's like, it's exactly the same thing I see repeated, right? I want to equalize access to MAID. Okay? I want to equalize access because everyone has a right to die, bruh. Right? Everyone has got the right to die, right? So I'm just like, okay, you can do it. Yeah. Oh, you don't. Okay, yeah, you're depressed right now, right? You're heavily depressed for the last 2-3 years. You need to sign 3 signatures, and then you can do it for equal access. Or this idea that these drug users, these people who are destroying communities, being imported to small towns, right? They're being brought by buses to small towns all across the nation. We're seeing Hamilton have a huge problem. You've got the same problem, you know, being exported out of Vancouver City into all parts of BC. And that this idea right here, because this argument can be used, the litmus test, the morality of an action is intent. So the intent is to do good, but you just fuck everything up. You do evil in the end, even though you were trying to do good. So that's where I would say the litmus test of the morality of an action is actually its consequence, not the intent. What do you think, Adam? Do I just?
No, I think you're right. But I think, so let's suppose that this is correct. Let's take this guy at his word and say, hey, this is a correct statement. Right? Well, who gets to decide the intent? You know, just because he thinks one side is more righteous than the other, it doesn't mean you're correct. And so he actually is just creating a straw man here. There is no argument. It's retarded.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. There you go. Some deep thoughts on a Monday morning. Right, Pan? You didn't know that we were going to be doing deep thoughts today, did you?
No, we went deep, you know. A lot of stuff going on in the world, you know. You have famous Canadians, you know, kicking the bucket, you know, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Matthew Perry. You got this. You got Brandon out there mumbling on microphones, you know.
Yeah, for me, this is the standout, though, right over here. It's to, you know, just... That's what I'm going to be doing. Hail the chat. Hail, brethren. And we'll be back again. Actually, we'll be back again next week on Thursday. That's right. I'm going to be... I'll be indisposed. So I'll be back again next week on Thursday. Thank you so much. Hail the chat. Hail, brethren. Thank you.
The Premier and Finance Minister are speaking at a gas station in Etobicoke this morning. It's happening right now. Minister Bethel speaking. We'll listen in live for a moment here.
Dans 2 jours, je publierai l'exposé économique de l'automne 2023.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Daniel.
It's a pleasure to have you in here today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I've been looking forward to doing this podcast for a long time.
I've been dreading it.
We got a lot of stuff to cover today. I've had Ben in here, Ben Kirkwick from Uncharted X a couple times now, and he's talked a lot about some of the stuff that you've been working on for the past few decades. He and I are both huge fans of your work. He obviously, cites all of your work when he does his stuff and when he goes to the pyramids and reports some of the stuff in his videos on Uncharted X. And that's how I actually first discovered you, was from when Ben came on here about a year ago. After he came in, I read your book, The Giza Power Plant, twice. Just finished reading your new book, The Tesla Connection, which was mind-bending to say the least. Maybe you could give us sort of a brief background on your history and how you got interested in the pyramids of ancient Egypt.
I was raised in a working class family in Manchester, England. And my father was a butcher and my mother was a housewife. And I have 4 siblings, a brother and 3 sisters. So it was a very loving household, and I ultimately decided at the age 15 that I was done with school, and I pled out to take an apprenticeship and was hired by a company called Mather and Platts. They were an engineering company in Manchester, and so at the age of 15 I entered their apprenticeship program, worked there as an apprentice for 6 years. I started out, as I recall, my paycheck was like $7 a week for 40 hours.
Oh, wow.
Right, so apprentices were not paid much back then. I mean, if you go back to, the really old days, like Victorian times, apprentices, parents, fathers would take their sons to apprentice with a tradesman, a craftsman, and they would pay them to take them and teach them a trade, or they would work for nothing, but they would kind of stay with the tradesman, the craftsman, and serve their apprenticeship away from home.
Right.
So anyway, this was kind of like an indentured apprentice. I have my documents, indentures that I was given when I completed my apprenticeship, and then I left the company as a journeyman, specializing in lathes. So
in lathes?
Lathes.
What is a lathe?
Lathe turning.
What is that?
It's a machine tool that is used for machining parts, round parts particularly. Very precise round parts. There are all kinds of lathes. There are vertical lathes, horizontal lathes, and they've developed over the years. There's capstan lathes, turret lathes, tool room lathes. Every one of them has different features. So so that was my specialty at the time, and I took that with me and went to work elsewhere when I was 22. Worked at a forge for a bit, and then I went to work at a company called Hunter Musgrave, and they made paper milling machinery, textile milling machinery, really long shafts and rollers and stuff like that for industry. While I was there, I saw an ad in the Manchester Evening News, and it was an aerospace company in the States that were recruiting machinists to work in the aerospace industry.
Okay.
Right. So.
What year was this?
That would have been around 1968.
Okay.
So in 1968, I applied for the position, and I got a telegram saying that I'd been selected, and I had to get a visa to come to the States and start working. So I finally left the shores of my home country in 1969 and landed in New York on May the 9th, 1969.
Okay, so you came to the U.S. in about around '68 to work for the aerospace company.
Yeah.
And what exactly were you doing for those guys?
Well, they hired me to run a vertical lathe they call them bullards.
Bullard.
Bullard. B-U-L-L-A-R-D.
Okay.
I mean, you got millions of machinists around the states who will recognize that word.
Okay. What does a bullard look like?
It's a vertical lathe. It's like they've got a round chuck, and then you've got the typical axes that move a turret so that you can cut inside and outside diameters.
Oh, is this a bullard? Okay,
Yeah, so
that's an intense looking machine. Wow.
Yeah, before when I was in England, I ran a Webster and Bennett. So in England, they call them borers, vertical borers.
Okay. And what?
In the States, they call it vertical lathe.
So can you explain to me what this thing is doing here?
Well, right now it's just sitting there. There's no part. But if you see that there's a chuck there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mount a part to be machined on the chuck, and that hexagon kind of thing that has that's not a hexagon, but it has a tool post, and you mount tools in the tool post and cut the parts on the outside and inside, different shapes.
What kind of materials?
Well, in aerospace, you're talking about exotic alloys like Inconel, Hastelloy X.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heat resistant, corrosion resistant alloys. When I first came to the States, I worked for a place in Martinsville, Indiana called Twig Industries. And Twig Industries, they were a subcontractor for some of the major EOMs like General Electric, Allison Engine, which is now Rolls-Royce, in Indianapolis, Pratt & Whitney, and other aerospace companies. So they did a lot of aerospace stuff, including stuff for the moon landing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you guys engineer for the moon landing?
Well, they were a manufacturer. They didn't necessarily design it or engineer it. They engineered the processes. Okay. It was a framework for the survival pack for the astronauts when they went landed on the moon and did their moonwalk. That box of air that they had on their back. Right?
That box on their back, you guys made that?
The framework for it, yeah.
And
so it was a welding.
What is that box on the back? Like, what does it do?
It's their survival. I guess it provides, heat and cooling to their suits, keeps the temperature. Regulated and monitors their physical functions and that stuff.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating.
They had obviously they had made that before I got there. Because the moon landing was in June, right? The month after I arrived.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it was
good timing.
It was interesting, There's a thing about manufacturers and the inside jokes and the way people talk about the company and stuff like that, right? So it's like there was one old wagger said something. He said, "Well, we know that the astronauts are going to come back. They'll make it back." Because everything Twig makes always comes back eventually. So, in other words, it's kind of like everything they make has got flaws, so it's going to come back.
Oh, God. Well, at least you got a sense of humor.
Well, you got to have a sense of humor.
Right, of course. Yeah, it's valuable. Yeah. So how long did you work for this company?
I worked there for about a year, just under a year.
Oh, okay.
In Martinsville, yeah.
Okay. And what did you do after that?
Then I went briefly to Texas. And then I worked at a very small shop in Indianapolis. I came back to Indiana and worked in a very small shop. They made drapery, machinery, and wheel balancing equipment.
Wheel balancing equipment.
Yeah. So it was 1970. So we were kind of heading into a recession at that time. And so it was very hard, very difficult to find work. So I just got the best job that I could get at the time. And then after that, I went to a place called Beulah, which was known as Indiana Gear Company. They made gears for helicopters and other aerospace kind of products. So.
Okay. So what is the process when you're working for these companies that are making these gears or any of these aerospace pieces or parts? Like what is the process to actually creating them? Like you're operating this big machinery, so does people send you plans or like schematics for how this needs to be done and what materials they need to be done with, and then you guys sort of figure out how the cuts are going to be made and all of that? How does that process work?
Yeah, generally the manufacturing process that I have experienced, and every company is different, of course. But what I've experienced is that the company will receive an order from a customer that will include drawings and specifications. Some of the specifications are on the drawing, others are in a separate sheet, but they will control the process. So the engineers will then take those drawings and design a process and create their own drawings, breaking out all the various elements of the drawing. So if the drawing has multiple parts, assemblies, sub-assemblies associated with it, like a jet engine, I scroll through here and put up. So essentially you've got various parts to a jet engine, and they're comprised of individual single parts. Those single parts could be made of sheet metal.
Mm-hmm.
They could be forgings, castings, and they are basically cut, welded, machined, formed in all different kinds of configurations, and then put together. They may be brazed, welded together, which would include maybe spot welding or TIG welding. And then those sub-assemblies are then shipped to the customer, and the customer installs them in their engine. Interesting. While we're on this drawing, we'll talk about some of the elements. One of them, the principal elements of the shapes that you'll find in a jet engine is a truncated cone.
Right. Okay.
So the truncated cone will appear in just about every section of the engine, from the front end to the aft end. But anyway, getting back to that process, the manufacturing engineers will submit a plan to the production. Then production will review the plan. The engineer will have tools, dies, fixtures, gauges ordered from suppliers or to be made internally.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything will come together with that particular part that they're designed to produce and inspect.
Okay.
So accuracy, the complexity of these parts is very, very, they are unique because you have the application of geometries such as a airfoil shape or something like that. That's applied to a truncated cone or other parts, and then they're supposed to fit with precision.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot allow for any variation of accuracy, no variation whatsoever.
Right.
You have certain tolerances that you work within, right? Maybe 1,000, 2,000, sometimes maybe 20,000. But you have to stay within those tolerances. Otherwise, the part is no good.
Wow.
It could be either scrapped or you may have to rework it, which just adds cost and reduces your profits, right? The point is that when it comes to public safety, you know, you have to follow due diligence,
right?
And that is with the people you hire, from the engineers down to tool makers, to machinists, to production employees. All of them are obligated to adhere to very tight standards.
This is an example of probably something that requires the utmost precision than probably anything on Earth, because you're building engines that are on planes that are carrying hundreds of people, right? So I assume, like, even building skyscrapers, you don't have to be as precise as you have to be when creating something like this, which contains, I'm sure, millions of very tiny parts in different types of materials that fit together that create the entire thing.
They say when they ship a jet engine, say like a large Trent engine, Rolls-Royce maybe, shipped to a customer, the paperwork that goes with it, all the certifications, weighs more than the engine.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's a.
And your son works for Rolls-Royce, by the way. That's a little interesting aside. Your son is working at the aerospace division of Rolls-Royce.
Yes, yeah.
That's amazing.
Working in metrology there. The reason I want to share this with you is because it does have an impact on the way somebody who is from this industry, or even any kind of manufacturing industry, the way they look at ancient Egyptian artifacts and how they interpret what they see, and I think it also is what has created a bit of a schism, between manufacturers and technophiles, those who are really into, they have some technical education, even though it's not identical to, say, another field. You will have certain experience in technology, maybe it's media or photography or electronics or things like that. And so your brain is wired a certain way. But you don't have the shop experience of actually going down into the shop and creating these artifacts.
Right.
And and knowing what can change something to make it not workable. And there can be very slight changes that will, say, the geometry on a cone. It doesn't have to change very much for it to be scrapped.
Right.
So if you misinterpret a drawing, or something like that, and cut something out of print, then you scrapped it.
At what point did you become aware of some of the artifacts and pyramids and everything in ancient Egypt?
That was in 1977.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was working as a tool and die maker, in Indianapolis. And I was in a bookstore, and I saw this book by Peter Tompkins, and asked me oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, we didn't talk about this.
Oh, you want to talk about?
Yeah, let's talk about it. What is that?
I don't know. If I tell you about that, I may have to kill you.
It'll be worth it.
No, it won't. It's no big deal. But yeah, there's a story behind it.
Wait, you really can't tell the story?
Well, yeah, I guess I could.
So what is this plane, and where is it?
That is a F-117, and that is the stealth fighter.
Yes.
First
Oh, yeah.
appeared in the desert. Desert Storm.
And which part of this plane did you build?
Well, I am not going to claim that I actually cut those parts that you see on that plane. But there was a period of time I was running a laser job shop in Indianapolis.
A laser job shop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean in English?
Well, we're using high-powered lasers to cut aircraft materials.
Okay.
Right. So, I was working for a company called Reddick Engineering, and Reddick was a great guy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was encouraging him to get into lasers because I've become fascinated with lasers. And he actually went to an auction and bought a Perkins Elmer helium neon laser with retro reflector and target for alignments and stuff like that. And he comes, wheels it over to my bench, and he goes, "There you go, bloke. See what you can do with that."
Wow.
Right.
What do one of those lasers costs?
Well, I don't know what he paid for it, but it wasn't much because he was a cheap bastard.
Yeah, he got it at an auction.
No, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
But a cheap bastard.
Some of the best guys are cheap bastards.
Aren't you, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, but the one day a guy comes in with these panels, right? And he wanted me to set them up in the laser and cut these rectangular holes in them.
Okay.
But they were on compound angles. And it was an array of them, right? In a square.
Yeah.
So I set them up, programmed the laser, and cut those little squares. And then I go to, I see the F-117, and I'm looking at the air intake on the front. And it's like, those look remarkably like those panels.
Wow.
I cut. And the engineer that brought them in, I was like, hey, what? I was always very curious about where this stuff went, you know.
Yeah.
What it was used for, what the application was. What are these for? What are these for? And he goes, can't tell him.
It's classified.
Just cut them.
Just cut them.
Actually, you're not cutting, you're burning. The laser burns it doesn't cut it.
Wow.
Right. So anyway, that's that story.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the secret.
So this is the first book that you came across about the pyramids in Egypt.
Yeah, that was 1970.
That cover is interesting looking. You see all the dirt that's coming up the side of the pyramids? All the sand or whatever it is?
That is, that is an artist impression of it. I don't think it's accurate, but it is true that the pyramids, they had a lot of sand and also rubble, because the pyramids were pretty much destroyed. Most of the casing stones have been shaken in history. The official theory is that they were used to build the mosques and minarets of Cairo, and they were using the whole Giza plateau as a quarry. And there's signs of that too, that they were actually doing some quarrying out there. You see evidence of Roman quarry marks, particularly to the south of the second pyramid.
Okay.
Khafre's pyramid.
Okay.
And you'll find a lot of granite blocks. Some of them still in situ up against the pyramid. Others laying out in the field to the south, and they will have these slots or grooves cut into them, where they try to wedge, cut them into pieces, and succeed in some cases.
Wow.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is that
you're talking about the actual the dynastic Egyptians were doing that.
I don't think it was the dynastic Egyptians.
Okay.
I think it was the Romans.
Oh, the Romans. Okay.
Right, because in other parts of the world you'll see the same kind of technique that they use for quarrying.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, got it.
And then the question is, if the dynastic Egyptians built the pyramids, right? Why would they proceed to tear them apart?
How'd they tear them apart?
Well, you say, well, did the dynastic Egyptians create those quarry marks? But they were actually stripping the granite away from the pyramid. And so it really doesn't make sense to build a pyramid and put all, go to the trouble of putting all that beautiful granite against it, and then, taking a hammer and chisel.
Like the casing stones and stuff like that.
Right.
They were stripping it away. And,
right. So I think they...
Who was the first person to come up with the idea that the dynastic Egyptians were responsible for the pyramids?
Who was the first person?
Or the first group, or where did that come from?
Well, that has been in the official literature for a long time.
Didn't you say that it was written by Europeans, that history?
Most of the Egyptian history was written by early Egyptologists, which were Europeans. So in England, William Flinders Petrie was considered to be England or Britain's first Egyptologist. Auguste Mariette, French in France. And so, the Europeans were very active in studying Egyptian artifacts and also, taking a few home with them.
Yeah.
A lot. A lot of them home with them. So they, as far as the, assigning the time period for the building of the pyramids, because the pyramids were assigned to a particular king and period of time, they placed them in the fourth dynasty.
The fourth dynasty.
Fourth dynasty, right. So it's like 2400 BC, something like that.
And when did you first go to Egypt?
86.
86.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. 86. Yeah. That was. It was different in '86. It was very chaotic, and it was a bit of a culture shock for me. But the interesting thing was, I was really nervous because I'd already been writing, about my theory on the Great Pyramid, which occurred to me in 1977. And so when I actually came face to face with the pyramids, which anybody who writes about pyramids must visit it eventually.
Yeah.
Right?
You'd think.
Sooner rather than later. Mine was much later than I had hoped. That's the way things work.
So I didn't know. So you started writing about this before you actually visited Egypt.
I did, yeah.
What prompted you to begin writing about it, and where were you getting your information from?
Well, that's the thing. You see, I was, and that really heavily influenced my mind, because I was looking at the pyramid and the schematics of the pyramid as an engineered product that had the precision of a machine.
It's football season, baby, and you know what time it is. Time to gamble all that hard-earned money on some sports. As a bettor, you demand perfection, and that's where MyBookie delivers. NFL, college football, and a brand new cash-out system give you the options to bet and win all season long. First two legs of your parlay already hit, you can cash it out early and place another bet, or sweat it out and let it ride for a chance at an even bigger payday. Join the MyBookie family for an entire season filled with daily odds boosts, same-day parlays, and super contests. And this season, MyBookie has a no-strings-attached cash bonus that lets you deposit and withdraw quick. Use the promo code DJP on a deposit of $50 or more, and you can receive up to $200 cash instantly into your MyBookie account. Bet your deposit amount once, and you're ready to withdraw at any time. Again, that's promo code DJP to claim your cash deposit bonus. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
It was a kind of an evolution of that thinking. Gathering all the information from Tompkins' book which included the pyramids and temples of Giza and what was contained in there, that I became convinced that the effort for building the Great Pyramid, it did seem to me that the culture that built it was much more advanced in terms of their technical manufacturing capabilities anyway, and than what we have been taught. So that is clearly evident, and I think that has been supported by most engineers and technicians who have been over there and actually started to study them with that thought in mind.
Were you the first person to come up with the theory that the pyramid was a power plant?
Guilty. Let me back up a little bit. There was a general period of time in the 70s where there was a lot of interest in something that they called pyramid power. In that the pyramids had, just by the shape of the pyramid, it had this kind of energetic value. So there was a lot of talk about that. There was a book written by Patrick Flanagan back in the 70s. It was called Pyramid Power. There were other books written that referred to the Great Pyramid with talking about pyramid power. But it was a kind of a mystical kind of power rather than a practical.
Mystical, how so?
Something that is not quantified in physical terms or three-dimensional terms.
Not measured.
Not measured. It's more like something that we didn't quite understand, couldn't quantify.
And was that based on like people standing in the pyramids and?
It's based on a lot of that kind of information or those experiences. It was more an experiential kind of an experiential experience. Scratch that.
Right.
No, it was more an observation.
Okay.
And it
subjective
in a lot of ways. Some of it was, they tried to measure it, but they were measuring effects rather than identifying what kind of energy it was.
Okay.
The sharpened razor blade experiment was very popular back then, where the pyramid was said to, if you put a razor blade inside a pyramid shape, then the blade would stay sharper longer.
What?
Yeah. So it had a lot of different values.
Is that true? Does the razor blade stay sharper longer if you keep it inside the pyramid?
I tried that, and I did it. I said, well, I'm going to try it. So I used a razor blade for a little longer than I thought. But then I had the thought in my mind was that doing those kind of experiments, those are already done. What was needed was a complete kind of reverse engineering of the structure to determine and find answers for every single part of it.
Right.
What was originally designed into it, what was introduced afterwards that was not a part of the design, what the operation of the pyramid, what effects that may have had in certain areas. And so there was quite a lot of information that I had to go through to find answers for. A lot of mystery.
Can you in your book, you do a beautiful job of explaining reverse engineering. Can you give me the rundown on how you reverse engineer something?
Well, it's very simple. It's like if somebody comes to you with say you're a manufacturer, somebody comes to you with a product that already exists. They don't have any drawings, they don't have any specifications on it at all, and they say, I want you to make this. I want you to make this exactly like it. And if you do that, then it's going to function the way I think it will. Okay, so you make it identical to the original. What do? You take the piece, you take it to the lab, you measure every single part of it, how many parts are actually in it, and then you determine a process on how you would reproduce it, right?
Okay.
And then you reproduce it, and then you compare it to the original and say, okay, does this look like the original? Is it similar to it?
Is it made the same?
Measure to measure.
Measured it. Measured out.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of looking at it and saying, yeah, that's close.
Okay.
It's like, no, you got to measure it, and you got to be very exact.
Okay.
Now, the other part to reverse engineering is to try and determine what goes on inside an engine or inside a device, a machine, a complex machine, any complex machine, how it functions based on its output when you can't see what's inside, right? So first thing you've got to do is open it up, and then you try and determine through examining every single component inside it how it functions. I mean, manufacturers do that all the time.
So it's basically the reverse effect of engineering something, which is when you're engineering something, you say, hey, I want something that achieves this. I want something that performs this task. And that's when you're engineering. You say, okay, how do we perform this task? We put this thing together. We build the parts that we think are going to do this, and then measure everything, and then
measurement, design, and function.
Measurement, design, and function. Right.
So you measure, you analyze the design, you take measurements,
and you figure out the function.
Determine what the function is.
And engineering is the opposite.
So
engineering something is function.
You have a particular function that you want a device to perform, and so then you do the design, and then you build the product using the measurements.
Right. When you started writing about the pyramids, and you were sort of like seeing sort of diagrams in the 70s had already been done, and all of the chambers that are known about today had already been discovered, and you sort of knew what it looked like.
Yeah.
And you just assumed that, there's no way something this precise with these weird shafts and compartments and voids was built for a tomb. You thought intuitively that it looked like something that had a function.
I did, yeah. Let me see if I can bring up cross-section of the Great Pyramid. So this is an image out of my book, and the different features on the inside is what really caught my attention.
Okay.
We'll start with the downward shaft, which is this particular shaft right here. Sorry. So this shaft right here, over the constructed portion of it, from the opening here down to the bedrock, was straight within the thickness of a thumbnail. That is 20,000ths of an inch. Okay. The passageway, it's called the descending passage. The passageway is around 40 inches square. I think it's like, around 40 inches square. And it goes down 350 feet to this bedrock chamber. The entire length from the outside, the 350 foot long, is only out 1/4 of an inch, and that is also the excavated portion.
40 inches wide. I assume people haven't been down there, right?
I've been down there.
How do you get down there?
I wouldn't get down there today, obviously. But
you go 300 feet down a 40-inch tunnel?
Yeah.
People still do this?
People do that. Yeah, I mean,
is it all lit up and stuff for people to like? Is it?
Yeah, there are lights. There are lights along there, and you get down into the subterranean chamber, and some people have even gone into this shaft right here. That's cut even smaller than the 40 inches. There was a story about that. I mean, in my book, on a tour that I co-hosted in 2018. There was a geologist, an engineer, actually two engineers. One, Andy Leskowitz, he went down to the end of that shaft.
How wide is that little shaft on the end of that chamber?
It's very small. I mean, I won't fit in it. You might. I wouldn't. When I was a lot younger, I would have gladly gone down.
So this cross section of the pyramid, this was available in the 70s. Everyone knew about all of these chambers, and these shafts were all known then.
All except for I.
Right. I is the recent one, which was found by the Scan Pyramids Project.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So the big void that was discovered in 2017.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. So you saw this, and what was the first thing that went through your head?
It was really weird. It was very mysterious because I was, what's going on here? I'm like, there's something going on here, and I don't know. I didn't know what it was. I was like, but it's just so mysterious. And I just sat down and I started to draw these three-dimensional drawings of the different chambers, right? And and then just looking at it, it was, and trying to figure out what each of those chambers was used for became my passion. But the thing that struck me the most is the incongruity of the shafts, the small shafts. There's a story behind those that is quite exciting, really. But they're really important to the function of the machine. So yeah, all of that struck me immediately with the precision. Just the angles, the different shapes. It was all very machine-like to me. And I think, when it comes to saying that the pyramid was a machine to produce energy, then yeah, I was probably the first to actually put that out.
What type of machine do you believe that this pyramid is, and how does it work?
In my first book, it was called the Gyges Power Plant, as you know. And
yes.
Okay, so the Gyges Power Plant described the Great Pyramid. I described it as a coupled oscillator, in that it was connected to the Earth. Its proportions were an integer to the Earth, and it was tuned harmonically to the vibrations of the Earth. That was what I proposed. And as such, it reacted to the Earth's pulse, or the Earth's vibration, and through that they were able to stimulate electron flow in the central granite chamber, and produce microwave energy. So basically, I described it as a maser, but it was
a maser,
like a solid state maser.
A solid state electron harvester.
Well, that's what ultimately I called it. Yeah, it's a electron harvester. And so that was in my first book. I didn't call it electron harvesting.
Oh, that was until the
Not
new
for-
book. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I realized that, a lot of people will look at the word power plant, and the vision that comes to their mind is like smokestacks,
Right.
long trains of coal snaking through the countryside to these power plants. And so, kind of, and then of course, power plant and nuclear power plants, coal power plants,
Right.
stuff like that.
Right.
So it's generally associated with boiling water, creating steam, pushing turbines, and drawing the electrons off the generators. But this was kind of like a different concept in terms of creating energy or drawing energy from the earth directly without burning fossil fuels or smashing atoms.
So underneath, in the cover of the Giza power plant, you have the pyramid sitting in the desert, and then underneath that you have like it looks like lava underneath, and then like the crust of the earth. So I guess you're describing that seismic activity that's happening inside of the earth, creating vibrations that are resonating with all the rocks in the pyramid.
Yeah, that cover was created by my publisher Bear and Company. They're artists, and basically it does represent what you just said.
Okay.
As far as strict accuracy to engineering drawings, that you don't see that there, but it loosely gives you an idea.
Okay.
Right. It represents the pyramid, energy coming out of the pyramid, its connection to the earth, and energy going on inside the earth that is tapping into.
So you theorized that the pyramids were harvesting energy and generating energy to power whatever civilization created them.
Yeah.
And how do they get power from the pyramids?
How do they get it?
How do they use it?
Oh, how do they use it?
Yeah.
That is a good question. It's a question I get asked a lot. The problem that we have is when you look at the pyramids, so you go to Egypt and you walk around the pyramids and the temples, you look at the skeleton of a civilization. Obviously, there's so much that's missing, that has disappeared over time.
Right.
We don't know where. And so when you ask the question, well, what were they powering? We don't find any microwave ovens out in the desert, so, and you probably won't. The only thing that really survived from that period of time was
the rocks.
The rocks.
Yeah.
Right. So some other materials, but the rocks basically survived. And it's a matter of, then again, it's like, okay, so what we're left with is the rocks. So what do? We take measurements. We look at the design. We analyze the effects of certain spaces, like the King's Chamber, the effects of that chamber, with the acoustic effects of it, the acoustic effects of the Grand Gallery. So there's a lot that we can study to try and come up with some answers as to how it functioned, what it did. And it's an evolving. I would call it like I would say that it's a kind of like an international brainstorming session.
Right.
So I mean, if you ask me what my whole role is in this thing, I would say I'm just like, I'm a mechanic that comes across an engine in the desert, and I'm trying to figure out what the engine does, right? And so in order to figure it out, I need a lot of help. I need the assistance of experts in different fields, physicists, electrical engineers, acoustic engineers, geologists, materials engineers, all of those people have input. And so that's what I did. I talked to civil engineers, I talked to electrical engineers, I talked to mechanical engineers as I was developing the theory for the book.
Okay. And when you first traveled to Egypt and went inside the pyramid, what did you discover from your experience, from your personal experience being there, going inside the chambers? Did that have any sort of effect? I'm sure it did on some of the writing you did previous to that.
Profound effect. Profound effect. I mean, just the experience of being there is just mind-blowing. Whether you're writing about it or, just a general tourist. I've seen people really affected tremendously just by, going in the Great Pyramid. But as far as how did it affect my perception or my ideas or what the Great Pyramid was, I was worried. I was extremely worried that it would when I went there, and I was on my way to Egypt, and I'm thinking, oh, done. What have you done now? You're going to Egypt, and what if it's all not as you read, and it's something totally different, and you're just gonna leave thinking, okay, well, I just wasted 6 years of my life or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I was concerned about that. And that actually kept me away from the Great Pyramid. I didn't go into the Great Pyramid for 3 days. It was like I was, eyeing it warily from a distance. I didn't want to go up there.
You were afraid. You were afraid it might kill your dream.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a bit of nervousness. There was also a lot of, I don't know, just acclimatizing to the culture there was kind of difficult back in '86. It's a lot easier these days. So, but anyway, the third day I was there. Fourth day I went up and paid to go in, and went in, did a few checks, and it was like awe-inspiring. And the it just the different dimension that it provides you. It's not just a clinical review of books, many different books that I accessed over the years when I was studying it. It wasn't just a clinical analysis at that point. It became a living thing. It was kind of like a totally different dimension.
It's one thing to read a story, it's another thing to live it.
Right. It's like, okay, so I'm looking at lines on paper, and now I'm inside those lines.
Right.
And then after that, I went outside and pondered on the whole thing, and started to wander around the plateau. But that's when I started to look. I started to look at a lot of the casing stones and the stones on the south of the Khafre's pyramid, the second pyramid. So I'm walking around there, and I'm looking at these, what I consider to be really, really sharp and flat, sharp angles, sharp corners, very well cut stone with flat surfaces, and then some other unusual shaped stones that looked like they were extremely precise. But this was in '86, and I didn't have any tools or instruments with me to see if indeed what I was looking at was actually precise.
Right.
You can't really tell by looking at the photograph, just how, or looking at it with your eyes, just exactly how precise it is. You have to measure it.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what when I left, I had that in mind, that next time I go, I need to take some instruments with me and check things out a little closer.
And then how long did it take before you went back?
1995.
Oh, wow, okay.
It was you remember in 1993, Rudolf Gantenbrink did the exploration of the southern shaft in the Queen's Chamber.
Okay. Who was Rudolf Gantenbrink?
Gantenbrink was a German robotics engineer, and he was commissioned by the German mission in Cairo to clean out the shafts because they wanted to install some ventilation to protect the monument. So he was contracted to go to Egypt. He designed and built a robot to explore the shafts, and particularly it was the King's Chamber that he was focused on, was actually clearing it out and then installing fans.
Okay. Do we have any images of this?
Okay, so if we look at this one right here.
Okay.
Okay, what you see here is the southern shaft opening, which has particular significance to the theory, the microwave theory.
Okay.
This is an opening in the south wall, and it's directly opposite an opening in the north wall. It's right here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this opening here has a dimensions of 8.4 by 4.8 inches.
Oh, wow.
So the generally the guidelines for creating a waveguide are the height is about half the width of the length. So
what is a waveguide?
A waveguide carries microwave.
And what is that used for today commercially?
Communication, for the most part.
Like, for example, what?
Oh, just about everything that we get. I mean, you got these microwave towers. Try and pull up a microwave horn antenna on the internet.
Okay.
So you have those. They're all different shapes and sizes. You know, there's obviously I don't work in the microwave industry.
So where's the waveguide here?
So
okay.
That's a horn antenna with a waveguide, right? And there are some where you have curvatures on the interior surface. But you see the waveguide itself, the horn, receives a broader signal and then narrows it down to the waveguide and transmits it through a waveguide.
Okay. All right. So that's what we're looking at when we're seeing those little shafts. The dimensions of those are.
If you believe what I'm telling you.
Okay. All right. I believe it, man. I believe you.
So when I saw that, it was like, okay, that looks like a horn antenna, right? And that's in the south wall of the King's Chamber. Directly opposite is a shaft
mm-hmm.
where the width is almost twice the dimension of the height. So you do have that rectangular kind of opening. It's 4.8 high and 8.4 inches.
Okay.
So essentially, the width has to be related to the wavelength of the atoms that are used to create the microwave signals.
Okay.
Okay. And the wavelength of hydrogen is 21 centimeters, or 8.309 inches. So it's almost 8.4 inches.
Close.
So if you had a some kind of a liner in there, maybe gold-plated liner, then you would have just a
so if these things could have been plated or coated on the surface, it would be a little smaller.
Right, yeah, it would be just a little smaller.
So it would be, it's the perfect dimensions for a wave guide for hydrogen.
It's very, very close. Well, I mean, just as it is, it's close.
Okay.
But they could be lined. Now, of course, you know, critics will say, well, there's been nothing found in the archaeological record that would indicate that those things even ever existed, and that's maybe true, except for one plate that was found by Petrie on the south side of the Great Pyramid near the shaft, and that is an iron plate, and on one surface of this iron plate there is signs of gold, that it was gold plated at one time.
So there's two shafts going out of the king's chamber,
right,
which is in the upper middle of the pyramid,
right,
and so yeah, H and J on this diagram,
right,
these are what we were just looking at, these wave guides,
right,
allegedly, and one of them brings something in, and then it goes through the king's chamber, and then the other one shoots it out.
No, something happens in between.
Yeah, something happens in between inside that king's chamber, G.
Right.
What happens inside the king's chamber?
Okay, so inside the king's chamber, what you have is it's a resonant chamber. The fascinating features of the king's chamber are that it's constructed of granite. Red or pink granite from Aswan.
Is that unique for the other chambers in the pyramid?
Yeah, this is the only chamber in the pyramid that has granite.
Okay.
So the granite was brought from Aswan, which is 500 miles away.
Okay.
From where the pyramid was.
How much granite is in that chamber?
Oh, thousands of tons.
Thousands of tons of granite.
You're talking thousands of tons. There are like 43 beams above the chamber itself. Those 43 beams weigh between 45 and 70 tons each.
Are we talking about those beams that are above the chamber?
Right. The beams are said to be relieving chambers. You know, they're stacked in a series above. There's 5 layers and a space between each one.
And it looks like the bottom of the beams are perfectly square on the bottom and edges, and the tops of them are very rough.
Right. And so in the Giza power plant, I proposed that those beams were intentionally made that way, and it wasn't a lack of attention, rather than it was a very specific, focused attention on the beams to make sure that they were tuned to a particular frequency when struck. So you have a situation where the sound input into that chamber, or vibration into that chamber, would resonate, would cause the granite to resonate, and the beams above would resonate also to those frequencies.
Okay.
And the other interesting thing about the King's Chamber assembly is that it is totally separate from the core masonry. You know, in a structure, you would like tie things into the core masonry or the core structure for stability and stuff like that. There is a space all around the King's Chamber, separating it from the limestone blocks that comprise the core chamber.
Really?
Right. So you have that particular feature. Tom Danley, who was an acoustic engineer, he did some acoustic testing in 1997, I believe it was the time he went over there, and he reported that he was testing, doing a sweep at very, very low frequencies, infrasonic, and the frequencies that he picked up were forming an F-sharp chord, so they were musical in nature. The F-sharp is considered to be, or by the Hopi Indians, tune their flutes to the F-sharp chord. They consider it to be the voice of Mother Earth. It is the frequency of the earth.
And what was he doing in the King's Chamber to get them to resonate and vibrate like that? To get the blocks to make the sound?
Nothing. No, he wasn't.
He was just in there.
No, when he picked up those frequencies, everything was turned off and there was no apparent force to cause it to vibrate.
So this was just sort of like the white noise or the background noise?
This was like background frequencies of the room. See, in '95, I took some tests inside the King's Chamber, and I took an RF counter with me. I wanted to check the frequencies, see if there's any EM frequencies coming off the granite, and I wanted all the lights turned off while I was in there. So I paid good money to get in the Great Pyramid, have a long time in it.
Mm-hmm. You rented it out by yourself? Wow.
I was by myself, and
private party.
Private party, yeah. And so, anyway, the lights weren't turned off, and I had a recorder with me, and I was recording the whole time I was inside the King's Chamber. And, you know, of course, all this it's not scientific, it's all anecdotal, right? And so when I got a little impatient waiting for the lights to turn off, so I got my flashlight and I went out to what they call the Great Step at the top of the Grand Gallery, right there. I was standing right there, and I yelled down to the guards outside, "Please turn off the lights." So, and then I scurried back into the chamber before they actually turned the lights off, because I didn't want to get caught in the dark. Well, the interesting thing is when I got back to my room later and played back that recording, I had a guitar tuner with me, right?
Yeah.
So, measured frequencies, and it picked up my footsteps on the granite. The granite was ringing at the frequency of 440. It was an A on the musical scale.
An A.
A, yeah. 440. So that was recorded. Just my feet striking.
What is the significance of it being an A?
It's all about frequency and resonance.
Okay.
And vibration, right? So if you've got energy coming through the pyramid, you're collecting energy in the Grand Gallery, which is this structure right here.
Yes.
Right? Converting vibrations into airborne sound, those are transmitted into this chamber right here and resonate in this chamber. That is causing all that granite to vibrate.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so let me see if I got this right. Number A is a subterranean chamber, which is picking up vibrations deep within the earth. That is transmitting vibrations up those shafts. There's two shafts, one that goes like out of the pyramid to the right, and then one that goes up into the Grand Gallery, and then it goes through the Grand Gallery into the King's Chamber.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the prime impulse in the subchamber, which is A. Okay, so
Yes.
if you're causing or driving a pulse into the earth and eliciting a response, then that's not designed to necessarily be collected just in the subchamber, right? It's designed to affect the whole area under the Great Pyramid, for vibrations to flow from the earth throughout the 13 acres of the Great Pyramid.
Okay.
And then flow through to the Grand Gallery and also the King's Chamber. So you're collecting those vibrations throughout. And then converting those vibrations into airborne sound, stimulating electron flow from the granite. And I identified the piezoelectric effect as being a principal mechanism for electron flow out of the granite. That changed after I started to do my research on Gyges, the Tesla connection.
So what is the specific function of A, the chamber, the subterranean chamber?
In the Gyges power plant theory, A is a chamber that contains the means to drive vibrations into the earth.
Okay, so there was there was something inside the chamber underneath the period.
Inside the chamber, yes.
That would vibrate the earth.
Yeah, and also at the same time probably the pyramid. So it would serve two functions. You'd be sending vibrations not just into the earth but also into the pyramid itself.
Okay.
So the subchamber being housing the pulse generator, which there are different proposals on that, how that was accomplished.
Okay.
There's one that's
thanks for being here. Thank you, new follower. Thank you, Moonraker.
Uses hydraulic.
Let's do the
hydraulic
same
pulse
flex.
generator. John Cadman, who is a marine engineer out in Bellingham, Washington, is a supporter of that. And then there is the Tesla version, which is what he called an earthquake machine.
Yes, this was a fascinating part of your book. I had
like
no clue.
Electromechanical device.
Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff.
That sends timed pulses into a structure, whether it's a beam on a bridge or an I-beam in a building in New York, which I think there's reports that he did that and almost brought the building down.
Yeah, there was a story. You told the story in your book.
Right.
The story was fascinating. They were in the basement of a huge building in New York, and they turned on the generator, and the building started falling down around them. For all of the time that we have been alive, the U.S. dollar has been the primary currency. But that may not be the case for much longer. China is set to dethrone the dollar, and possibly much sooner than you think. And even the world's biggest economies are already ditching the dollar for the yen, collapsing the U.S. currency, causing unprecedented inflation and crashing markets. And if that wasn't enough, this paves the way for the government to take total control over all of your money with a new digital dollar. Now is the time to take total control of your money and not let your life savings become a casualty of the currency.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for being here.
And you can do it using the only precious metal dealer that I trust, American Hartford Gold. They will show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio into physical gold and silver. With the finest products, amazing customer service, and a buyback commitment. But you don't have to take my word for it. American Hartford Gold has a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. American Heart for Gold supports content like this that is committed to bringing you the truth. And if you tell them I sent you, they'll give you up to $5,000 in free silver on your first order. So call them now. Click on the link in the description or call 855-679-1326. That's 855-679-1326 or text CONCRETE, KONCRETE, to 65532. Again, the phone number is 855-679-1326 or text CONCRETE to 65532. Now back to the show.
Right. Well, I don't think anything fell off, but it was threatening to. He had to break the machine. I don't think he.
Yeah, he smashed it with a hammer, right?
Yeah. And got the hell out of there. Yeah. Well, resonance is a really powerful force when you consider it. You know, when you impart energy into a system that is already has a certain amount of energy and is vibrating of a particular frequency, and you catch it at a node, right, a high node. An example would be a pendulum or a swinging ball. Okay, so the swinging ball comes back to you, it reaches the archive, and then you apply energy right there, then put energy into it and it goes further. And so you can start out with very small movements of this. Could be a ton, you know. Maybe you just move it an inch, and then it swings back to you, and you give it the same amount of force, and it moves 2 inches, and then comes back to you, and you step back, and each time you're stepping back, and by the time, you know, you can build up quite a swing on that ball without, you know, going up to it and having to smack it with a hammer. Probably break the hammer, but the point is that a small child could create quite an effect just by using resonance, and then, you know, the whole idea of accumulated energy.
What was the
building?
What was the purpose of Tesla's earthquake machine? What was he trying to accomplish with that?
He actually believed and wrote that he thought that you could relieve earthquakes, or the severity of earthquakes in there. And it was interesting. That was reported. I hadn't read that when I wrote the Gyges power plant, because I had made that observation in the Gyges power plant that perhaps, you know, with a system for drawing energy out of the earth, one of the effects of that would be the energy that is accumulating in the Earth's plates, where they push together to the point of breaking, or, you know, rapid release, where you have seismic waves moving out.
So going around with this machine and basically creating little mini earthquakes to avoid some big earthquake down the line.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that was one. That was one of his ideas about the use of his machine.
Okay.
So basically, that was in alignment with what I was thinking.
Okay, and you imagine something like this was down there in the subterranean chamber?
Yeah.
Okay.
Possibly.
Okay.
I think everything is open to further research and input from other specialists. I mean, obviously, if you're going to start playing around with the planet, you're going to have to have geophysicists involved, geologists involved, seismologists involved. You know, you can't just willy-nilly go in there and start putting vibrations into the earth in a great quantity. I don't know.
Yeah, could be dangerous.
Alright, we're going to raid somebody maybe.
I mean, you know, it's like you have to be, I think, fully aware of what the
Oh, Halloween, Dogger? We got to raid Dogger on Halloween. We have to.
You know, they say, okay, free energy. is there such a thing as free energy? Well, the energy is there, it's free, you know, just go get it, but it's going to cost you to get it. And then it may cost you to clean up after you get it. You know, it's just like, you know, the nuclear energy, fossil fuel energy, and all that. There's always a cost associated with it.
Right.
But the thing with with this, the electron harvester, and the most significant discovery was made by Friedemann Freund, Dr. Friedemann Freund.
Who is he?
Friedemann Freund, he's a physicist, works at NASA, and he was studying earthquake lines. And his objective was to determine if by monitoring the Earth at these seismic hotspots,